Welcome everybody to episode 6 of Into the Foxhole. I'm your best friend Craig.
Yeah, and this is his good buddy Edwin. Also, Akash is not here.
As usual, which is just fine.
I'm actually liking this semi-rotation of Akash. of like Edwin Craig, Akash the gang, Edwin Craig, Akash the gang.
It makes Akash seem that much more special when he's here with us.
It does, because when you think about it, I gave him top billing when I said Akash in the gang. It made it sound like we were kind of like his like band, and he was like, that's about him. But, alright, we have...
basically today we're going over E3 predictions.
Yay.
As you all should know, or it might have already be on right now, E3 is going on. E3 is happening.
Things are happening. Things are being announced. Of course, before E3, some historic things always seem to happen. Is everybody wants to jump the gun and they want to announce things prior to E3 coming. Like, we always make jokes that E3 technically doesn't start E3 doesn't start now. Like E3 starts like 4 weeks before E3.
Exactly.
Or E3, like the next year's E3 is going to start like before this E3 is done.
It's really gonna start like next E3 is gonna start like the day after Christmas.
Pretty much. If not, like right when this E3 is done, people are gonna start announcing stuff for the next. It's like everybody wants to be first, and I understand that because during E3, people get left in a shuffle. Game announcements get left in a shuffle.
Especially you put so much information in 1 week, like a lot of stuff can just be pushed aside because like, oh man, Halo or something got announced. I'm not paying attention to like.
We don't got time to hear all that other shit. Exactly. So it's like they stop caring. I understand that actually completely. Some of the companies have been jumping the gun a bit. Like I know Squaresoft showed off Murder Soul Suspect, and they wanted to jump the gun a bit. And some other companies, Techland showed off a new IP called Dying Light, which actually when I first seen it looked like Dead Island, but like Dead City. I actually kept thinking
Dead City.
That's actually really weird. But last year, when they first showed off the Wii U and they first showed some of its new IPs, some of its new IPs in general, when they were showing that zombie game. And showing the inventory, and they're showing all the stuff before the ending of it, before you found out what it was called. I actually thought it was by Techland.
Yeah, me too.
And I thought it was going to be called Dead City because I used to always be like, oh man, that'd be really cool. And they do one inside the city. It's called Dead City. but this is when I thought this was. So when I was watching the trailer.
It's never coming.
Exactly. When I was watching the trailer, I was like, oh, cool, he's running through the city. And this is not Techland. Therefore, it is the city. So I'm thinking that that's what it is. And then finally, like near the ending, it says, I think it says good night and good luck or good something, some weird thing. And then at the end of it, it says, like, dying light. And I was like, fuck you. No, but it's regardless of me wanting it to have that dead moniker to it, I guess the name seems to make sense. But this trailer for Dying Light, which is like pretty interesting, if you like any of Techland's games, so far they've been doing as a very early developer, they've been doing a good job this generation. But even though I haven't played Dead Island, which is not my fault, I have not played this game. Even though I'll compliment the developer, I've yet to touch the game, but I feel they've done a good job.
It's definitely a good game, but it is. I'm not gonna lie, it's definitely a game you need to be playing with somebody. Like you need to have somebody playing with you because I did play a little bit of it.
And it seems like it's
a lot like Borderlands to me. You get in there, it's like, oh man, this world is really cool. There's a lot of stuff to do in it, but then it kind of drags a bit.
That's the thing that sort of bothers me with games like this, and it's like it's not the developer's fault.
And it's not.
It really isn't. There's some of these games where they're like those buddy games. Like let's say Army of Two is one of these games. Now it's one of these games where it's like it's probably a good game with a friend, but it's like, all right, like who has the time for it?
Mm-hmm.
And then it's like, well, we're not always online at the same time.
These are the type of games that suffer too from like, you know,
we don't buy it at the same time. We're not interested at the same time.
You get it the first day, your buddy gets it too. You're like, oh man, let's do it. You hop in, you play for like a good like 4 or 5 hours. Like, oh man, this game is
that is the longest session you'll ever have in that game.
No, then you wake up the next day, you know, your buddy's at work. You're like, damn man, really want to play this game, but I kind of don't want to play without my friends.
Exactly.
So like, it kind of hurts it a little bit for me.
For a co-op game that's kind of like Borderlands, and what makes me sad is that I purchased Borderlands 1 after the fact, and Borderlands 2 was just interesting, but I was already playing other games, and it just seems that the concept of you're looting and you're with all these other people seems really, really, really interesting. I just never really have the time. It's not even just the time. It's that even with Battlefield, me and a good buddy of mine, Marcos, I've been playing Battlefield for like many of the titles, like iterations, for a long time. So it's like when we play together, like I would say,
always takes a turn to Battlefield.
It will always take a turn to Battlefield, but it has this feeling with Battlefield is one of them. Like during Battlefield, let's say I would have 700, 600 hours in a single Battlefield game. Maybe 400, 300 something of those hours would be with Marcos. So it's like the other 300 are most likely by myself. Though I like to play by myself, Marcos will jump in a lot of times and play with me during some of the times that I'm playing. So it's like I like to have that experience when I'm playing by myself. But it's not because it's not the person's not there with you. It has to do a lot of times with I just want to either play a specific map a bunch of times, or I want to learn a map better. It's like sometimes I just want to play that game mode, and a lot of times, my good buddy, like sometimes he may not just want to play hardcore every single time, or he may not want to play Rush every single time. Marcos likes to play. He's a purist when it comes to Battlefield, so a lot of times he's gonna like to play this game mode Conquest, and he's gonna like to get in the tank, get in the plane. He's gonna like to play that style. But because our styles are like that, it's like we play together a lot. But it's like during a session, clearly we might go to different servers and end up playing different areas for a portion of the night.
Right.
Now, I like the ideas of games like Left 4 Dead, where you have all these other people, and it's this whole team thing, and everybody's giving a fuck. But certain games like Dead Island and like Borderlands are not just like there where you could just play by yourself later on. It seems like these games are like there to be made with multiple people in mind.
Sure.
And it's like it sucks because when I care about these games or when I think it's interesting and I want to play these games, other people are playing other things.
Yeah.
But the difference with Battlefield is when I'm playing Battlefield, it's almost like when you play StarCraft. It's not just that flavor of the month. You're playing it.
Yeah.
So it's like one of these things when a StarCraft releases or a Battlefield releases, that is your game that you will spend primarily. So you could put 1,000 hours in this game, and that's easy for you to do because you know that you're going to be playing for X number of years. Mm-hmm. No one's going to be playing Borderlands for this fucking long.
Yeah.
It's not a bad game, but let's be real. I would put a decent, 30, 40 hours in it with another person. But beyond that, I'm not picking that game up again. So I don't think that's a developer's fault. I think it's just, look, there's certain games people are going to play a lot for a long time, and there are certain games that are good games that have good backgrounds, that have a lot of good concept and ideas to them, but these concepts and ideas don't feel like they're going to go above that 600-hour mark.
Right.
So even with a game that I'm going to play for that long, you see just how little I actually end up playing with him in general. Like half of the time was spent playing with him, the other half was spent playing by myself. Now, if you add that up to a game I might be playing for 30 hours, you could now see why that would be strange that only half of those hours of the 30 hours was spent playing with another person for a game that's meant to play with another person.
Right, but I want to say back to
Dying Light. It's not.
Yeah, Dying Light.
It's not Dying Light's fault, but it
just seems like it would probably come down to being that type of game.
Yeah, and it makes me mad because it's like, why can't we just get these games at the same time? I'm gonna get to a point where we should do something where next generation, if they have one of these buddy games, we will only purchase this game if it's brand new and we're giving a fuck at the same time. Fine, but if it comes months later, maybe a year or two later, and this game is used, we purchase it at the same fucking time. Yeah. We're only playing
This is coordinated purchases, for sure.
Because we cannot be doing these things. All right, I feel many of like horrible play sessions are just playing, and I'm just like, I feel this game is just broken. Like there are parts that should be another person. I am not enjoying this the way it was meant to be enjoyed.
No,
but with Dying Light, the trailer continues with like it shows the city and it shows this little sunset. And it shows this plane going by, and it drops this big package, and like it looks like it's one of those surplus packages with all this like, it's just this big crate, and it's like being parachuted through the city. So the main character sees it, he starts like running towards it and doing all this fancy, like Assassin's Creed, Mirror's Edge, parkour shit all over these buildings and stuff. So he's like parkouring it on these buildings, and like people are with him also partaking in parkouring, and they're like
also partaking in the parkour,
and they're like jumping and doing all this fancy acrobatic shit. And this one guy falls through something. He either falls through the ground or something happens. And as he falls through, like it shows like these zombies like eating the shit out of him. So like the other buddy falls through too, but it doesn't look like he falls through the same spot. It looks like he's jumping down. So when the next scene starts, you then realize that the building they're running on wasn't like the next scene wasn't that same scene. So the next scene, it shows them inside of a sewer running, and there's like zombies there too. The next scene shows that they're running out of a building to this other area. So it's almost like they're cutting to different scenes in different areas that are inside of the game, but making it show like this is an everyday struggle and that all these things are happening.
Right.
But what really happened in the scene was he's just running from one building to another, gets to the crate. That's what really happens. But it shows these scenes in between of all these other things that I guess happened during the game or during something, or just to show you that these things will happen during it. So it shows like there's like a sewer area and there's another area of the game, but it from what I've read, it's an open world game. If it's an open world game, then I personally feel that all the other stuff that they're showing don't really show a level as much as they're showing an area in the game.
Right.
So he finally gets to the package, and he's like all happy that he made it there, and like all these other people got killed, but here he is living. And like as soon as he's gonna go like walk towards the package, like something hits him behind the head, and it shows this other guy walking towards the package, and the guy's just laying there like he's dying or something. And then it just ends. The trailer just ends there. Like all these people are fighting to get that package.
So zombie popping out of that package.
Pretty much. That's how you end. That's how you end a garbage trailer. Like, a zombie either like punches its hands out of like a grave or something.
The main character's like, "Phew, made it." Opens up the package.
Who puts a zombie in a care package? But I feel that the story tells the video tells a nice story.
Right.
And the story that is very, I don't want to say it's like easy to tell, but it's like they didn't really make it like difficult. There's nothing cryptic to read about what's happening, but it's like it explains itself very easily. Like, okay, you could easily tell what's going on here. Something post-apocalyptic happened. Let's say the city's quarantined for whatever reason. Mm-hmm. Something happened here. There are zombies all over the place, and they're like 28 days later style fast, like Crimson Head zombies,
right.
like biting the shit out of people. So this happens, and there are survivors in the city, and whatever this plane is, whether it be military, whether it be some sort of non-profit group, what have you, somebody's dropping these care packages on the roofs of these areas, and this guy is jumping and getting the care package. So it seems that like the city's quarantined, but clearly there's still some sort of government out there. It's not just this random act of a random person. It's very clear that there's something like a government thing, or it seems like some sort of aid is being given to whoever might be alive in that area. So it's not it's not a 100% desolate, apocalyptic. It's all no hope there. If there's a plane flying by and dropping something, clearly there's some civilization out there somewhere giving a fuck. So it's like I feel that if it's going towards that type of thing, it might be setting up for a full blown apocalypse, which is nice because it's kind of like you want to experience that throughout the game, as opposed to that always classic, something happened a couple years ago, but don't worry about that. What interests me about a game like this is what happened during. During is interesting. It's easy to say something happened past tense. Every game says that. Every game could say Left 4 Dead, something happened, who cares? Or and I don't want to say The Last of Us being me, but The Last of Us seems like it goes in that little same direction too. Something happened all these years ago. We don't know what.
This is us surviving after the fact.
Yeah, so Fallout does the same thing. So it's like I like that you're playing something after the fact. I love the setting of those games, don't get me wrong. But I just personally wish that I like what they're doing with Dying Light, that you're in the setting of it's happening right now. Right. It's not, okay, this is years later. It feels like this is something that happened months ago, like it's still like not that bad because you could clearly see that if there's a plane flying over and dropping something, it hasn't been years. So I feel that it's probably like months that this has happened. But it's an interesting game from what I've seen. It looks really interesting. I keep my eye on it. But like all concepts, they're all interesting in the beginning.
Exactly.
Could be shit. So could be crappy. It's going to be released for. It's a cross-generational game, as like a lot of games are scalable this time. So it's going to be on Xbox One, PlayStation 4, PlayStation 3, 360, PC, and all that fanciness. I didn't read anything about it being on Wii U, which I don't know. I think Techland said they're not making Wii U games.
Really?
So that might be them or somebody else. I don't want to get all misinformation, but I think it's them. But there's a lot of new games being announced. Those are just 2 new games that have been announced within the week. Everybody's like jumping.
Yeah, those were all the jumping the gun stories. Basically, everybody who wants to.
Which I like because I look forward to it. Like every day, I'm not even lying to you. This entire week, I was looking for a company to jump the gun because they always do before E3. So it was like Square and then Techland, and then I mean EA sort of did with their Titanfall game, but I don't know if that was Game Informer's fuck up. Apparently there's this game like Titanfall that's being done by the Respawn team, or basically the team that used to be Infinity Ward. The members that used to make up Infinity Ward are Respawn at EA now. So apparently they're the one that's making this game. This game was it wasn't like formally announced. So it was just, I guess somebody slipped up and the Game Informer cover and all. So a lot of the information was kind of leaked out about it. Mm-hmm. And we were just kind of like, EA, the gun, you jumped it. The gun, you see that? You jumped it. But they wanted to show it. I don't know if they wanted to show it, but it seems every Game Informer guy gets a little leak here and there.
Right.
So it's from what I've read about the game, it has something to do with these guys fighting in these mechs called Titans. It's an online-only multiplayer type of game. I think there's a single-player component. All right, now that is a think because I only briefly read some stuff about it because I didn't even know the show was going to get taken down, so I didn't know to save any of this crap. But it's online somewhere. But apparently, it's supposed to be on the 360, PC, and Xbox One. And before I continue, there was a rumor around April or the ending of February, and this rumor that was leaked from one of Kotaku's sources, and their source was that EA's Respawn game was going to be exclusive to Microsoft's new system. Now, they stated that Microsoft's new system having an always online infrastructure worked towards the game that they're going to be making. They didn't really go into detail about it during the Kotaku leak or whatever, or a little rumor thing. They didn't really go into detail. They just say stuff about some small tidbits about why it's on there. They don't really go into detail even about what the game's about. Right. Now, one of the things that was stated on there was that on the same rumor went on to say that it was going to be released only on Microsoft's system. As for it being a timed exclusive or not, none of that was really stated. I don't want to jump the gun and say okay, maybe it isn't, but I'm getting a feeling that it's a timed exclusive just based on EA. Electronic Arts don't really do these type of things, so I see it as being timed. And during the same rumor from Kotaku, the same source goes on to state that Microsoft is, I want to use the words correctly, but he says that they're behind in terms of development of the system and of their software. Now, this next tidbit would kind of lead you to now understand how these two now go together in terms of when it's being talked about and in terms of the whole them not be meeting targets. If they're not meeting targets software-wise, they need to have that it game, if they're to at least a time game for the time being. So even hardware-wise, if they're not meeting where they need to be met hardware-wise, they know that they could kind of lean on something like a MMO type, first-person shooter type game. So I feel that all these things that are happening surrounding this game sound like very Microsoft. They sound like they've done this before. They did this with BioShock. They did this with some other games and Lost Planet and Dead Rising, and it just kind of goes on. So with all the games they've done this before with, I don't really see it not being likely it's timed. So the rumor went on to state all this. So the confirmation from Game Informer kind of confirms that yes, that this game is exclusive to Microsoft platforms at least, not really just the X1, because there's a 360 version. Now, what it does state on there is that the Game Informer issue says something about the cloud, that Microsoft's like whole computer processing cloud thing for the X1. Apparently that the game, one of the reasons why the game is on there is because the cloud computing does something that allows the game to be like really great multiplayer wise. But you have to take into consideration the game's on PC and on 360, so how could that be? So we don't really know what they mean. But apparently a different studio is making the 360 version, which I actually think is, I don't know if that's a good idea. I mean, they should at least, I think they should bend the truth. All right? I think they should say, well, Infinity Ward has another team working. If you make it sound like EA has another team working on this shit, it's gonna just go straight to hell. I think if you have another version of this game and another team is making it, you're not really putting that version in a positive light. It's like saying, okay, don't buy that version of that game, guys, because Infinity Ward's not even fucking making it. EA's not even backing it, so what's going on? So there's a PC version of this game. There's an Xbox One version of this game. So it's starting to make me believe, anyway, that it is a timed exclusive. Simply because to say that it's because of the platform sounds like it's just something they're just saying based on it's timed. If they know it's timed and they know they need to get people to believe that it's only going to stay on one platform, they kind of have to use something like, oh, this cloud computing. Oh, this thing that's on there is the reason why.
Right.
They have to have something else, because like last generation or this generation, you can't really rest your laurels on that anymore. When games are being timed exclusives are being released, this generation, many people are just like, we're going to wait for the inevitable version that's going to come out, based on everybody knew that one would inevitably come out. So I think they know they can't really just make these timed exclusives and everybody all of a sudden believe that they're going to be on that platform, only on that platform, especially by EA. So this game was put on by Game Informer to be on one platform, and then all of a sudden the whatever was revealed from it was taken away from some of the sites, but it might be all the information is still online somewhere. Another rumor, another game that we're kind of excited about that should be being announced at E3 is Mirror's Edge 2. And part of that rumor is that it's also an X1 exclusive as well, whether it be timed, who knows. But
I mean, I can't imagine why it wouldn't be.
I think at this point, like, if they're gonna rumor both of them, I'm starting to lean towards that this rumor is true and that Mirror's Edge 2 is timed.
I mean, because EA, right? EA is one of these? Yeah, so I mean, it's EA. Like, do you really think EA is gonna hold off the opportunity of not releasing Mirror's Edge 2 on every single system possible?
It's strange. EA hates it.
Especially a game like Mirror's Edge 2, which I guess despite its sales, really, I don't think it really sold that fantastic. How well received it is.
Yeah, but Mirror's Edge in general is more well received than I think it is in terms of critically acclaimed.
Oh yeah, like it wasn't very critically acclaimed. A lot of people, when it came out, a lot of people didn't buy it. But man, to me, that game was fantastic. I absolutely loved Mirror's Edge.
Yeah, if there's anything that I'm disappointed in, the possibility of it being timed would be that, because I liked parts of Mirror's Edge 1. And I want to see what new stuff they do with Mirror's Edge 2. I would hate to have to wait like a year to 6 months to play it on PS4. Sure. And I would not want to play it on PC. I mean, I don't think they make a bad PC game. I just would not want to play it on PC. That was leaked by, I think it might have been EA that leaked that shit. But it was either like an origin listing or something. But basically something was leaked about this game, and like they quickly took it off. And we were like, come on, guys, all right, EA, bro, you know what you're doing, EA. You're fanning the flames, EA. That's what they're doing. They're like, oops, oops, listing.
They lifted that skirt slightly.
Pretty much, the whores, EA. They know who they are. Mm-hmm. But
then you see just a peek before you're like, oh no.
Oops, pretty much. So they're
have to wait till Tuesday.
So they're very much sneaking a peek of Mirror's Edge to everybody. I think it's because of how big DICE is. I feel that DICE is working on 3 projects, and it wouldn't shock me that they are. So it's like they're doing Battlefield 4, that Star Wars game, and Mirror's Edge 2. So it wouldn't shock me if they really are doing 3 projects, considering how large that team is. So I'm
That's something to look forward to.
yeah, I'm gonna say a yes in terms of predicting it being timed exclusive. I will say yes. In terms of it being at E3, I'm also going to say yes.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, I feel like it should be.
So I'm gonna say okay on that. That's
We give it a thumbs up.
yeah. There's some other little small tidbits that through E3 that like I feel are gonna get like fall through the floor. One of them that might be off of everyone's radar is The Last Guardian. A lot of us are hoping it's there. The only reason why I think it might be there is based off Sony of Santa Monica was helping the development of this game.
Right.
Because man, I forget his name. I think it's like Frida something or Fuda. The dude who directed Shadow of the Colossus and Ico and who was directing this game. Apparently he's left the team, but he's only working at Sony freelance now. But like during the time period when he was like freelancing this game, Sony of Santa Monica came in to essentially help them finish the rest of the game or help them do more of it. But from what I understand, is Sony of Santa Monica is actually showing their own game at E3. So they're a rumor to be showing a new IP at E3. What I read on Edge's listing for hiring, because Edge has this little area where they have all these hirings for companies. And one of the hirings for Sony of Santa Monica is they're hiring for a developer that has prior knowledge in third-person to first-person shooting, vehicular combat, open world setting. So it's like, this could be Warhawk, because it sounds like it's Warhawk.
That'd be pretty badass.
It sounds like it might be Warhawk, and with Incognito, like majority of Incognito
at least something
Santa Monica.
Warhawk-like. Because they did release Starhawk.
Yeah, so it's like, this could be like...
Yeah, it could be something Warhawk-esque.
Galactahawk. Yeah. Well,
That's Destiny.
Yeah. But I'm definitely interested. I hope it's a new IP because like the premise of it being open world and the same third person, first person, vehicular combat, all its faces. I'm a little bit excited to see what it could be at E3, and the idea that the team is working on a new IP is kind of interesting because it kind of means that okay, if you're working on a new IP and you're working on a PlayStation 4 game, it actually might mean that they're finished working with Last Guardian, or Last Guardian is just finishing off. They don't have majority of that mass team working on that. Not having the whole mass team working on that might mean that they're already being, I guess, at the finishing stages. So if they're already at like the finish line and they're very much like the game's gold and they see it going somewhere, we could see it release. I don't think it, even if it releases this year, I personally don't think you have to see it at E3 for that to happen, considering, okay, the quickness of Gran Turismo 6 being announced and released. Gran Turismo 6 is clearly going to be at E3, and Gran Turismo 6 was kind of like announced, and then really quickly, and then bam, announced to come out this fall. So we've known of The Last Guardian, so I personally feel that they very much can show it at E3, and it very much can release this fall.
For sure. I mean,
so,
how long has this game been in development now?
Since 2006.
There you go.
If not, way before that, because we just seen it then. So I mean,
that's true.
Then, mind you, what we seen, like, because that team doesn't really do CGI, so all we seen was all development shit. So it wasn't like some other team was working on it. Like, you saw everything they were physically working on.
Right.
So it's been in development for quite some time. I see Sony as still releasing it based on, like, I don't really see them wanting to lose money. They want to make a return. So hopefully at this year, like, they'll say what it's about. If anything, and you know how much I hate this talk, right? If anything, I don't want it to be like a PlayStation 4 thing. We're like, bump to the PS4. Because I feel, not only as a gamer who purchased the system, if you purchased it for that game, I feel that's a dishonesty to now have to get on another platform. And I also feel that they should take advantage of the install base. But because, like what they did with Gran Turismo 6, part of me feels that it will be released on PlayStation 3. You know you have the higher install base. It's better to bite the bullet in the higher install base and save the sequel for another day on the next system when they learn the infrastructure. I mean, I know they want to have a lot of launch games, but this seems like something where it's best to get the units out there than not to. The only way I see it being released on PlayStation 4, honestly, is if they try to do it next year. If they release it next year on PlayStation 4, you not only have the install base growing, you also have the need for a new IP. Around this weird time period where a lot of systems are being purchased, it's a strange time period because a lot of developers could get games hit or miss. Because with the game system releasing, there's not a lot of games out. You're going to purchase that next big thing earlier on. Versus had it be released with PlayStation 3, now having to compete with everybody else. So it's like releasing a game where maybe a couple publishers are releasing games versus PS3, where you have games releasing every month for these platforms. Where it's like with PlayStation 4 and early into that generation, you may not have that many games releasing per month. They want to jump and get that game out there and get it sold. It might sell better. Mm-hmm. But I personally think it might be a good idea to advertise it and really go balls deep on the PlayStation 3 version and reap that return. I think the development cost going higher for next gen might be a bad idea.
I definitely agree.
But I say this much: look out for it if they do announce it for PlayStation 4. We were pondering it.
Yeah.
But there's
if they are releasing it for PS4, I think we're actually in trouble.
Because I really don't want that. Even though I'm hearing that the architecture is easier to develop on, I personally don't want it to be released in that respect.
You've already we'll touch on that a little bit later. But
Are you gonna say something else?
No, I was, but I mean, we have something else we're basically gonna be talking about the same thing.
Oh, okay, forget it. Oh yeah.
Once that comes over, we're gonna basically talk about it again.
No,
so
bro, you're right.
I'll bring it up later.
You're right. So these are some of the games that we're excited for. Craig's excited for. I know Craig's really excited for.
Bitches.
Actually, cute.
This is it.
I'm really excited for all that games. Craig's excited for Last Guardian. I'm excited. One of the things that's going to be there, apparently, Square's press release, Final Fantasy X. So I want a Vita, all right? I want a reason to want a Vita. The craziest thing is PlayStation 4 might be the biggest reason I'm buying a Vita now, which might be really crazy. Because of the remote play, they announced that apparently they said that it's mandatory that every developer that makes a PlayStation 4 game has to now make a remote play version. It's not really a version as much as it's how Steam has Steam Overlay and you could add it to you could add Steam Overlay to StarCraft.
Yeah.
It's no different than that. It's kind of okay, when you do it with remote play, it's just saying that you just have to make different button configurations. It's the game's still playing off of the system. You're still, let's say if I go to Adam and Jason's house or I go to a friend's house of mine anywhere, and I put my PlayStation here in sleep mode and it's connected to my network, or PS4, I could go to your house and say, oh, okay, I feel like playing my one PlayStation 4 game at somebody else's house. If I already have dual joysticks and I have all the buttons necessary to play and use the function of this actual game, I could essentially just go, click, go on remote play, turns my system on, and now that my system's on and I can do remote play, I could essentially play any game that's on my inside of my system. So I could just play it then. All it's saying is that they want developers to key the configuration of their remote to the Vita on these PlayStation 3, on these PlayStation 4 games, had they want to play remote play.
And the hardware would just do the rest.
Yes, which I think is fine because I see Knack playing off of it at Sony's press conference and it really looks good. They really look like it looks like it's not that weird stuttery slideshow shit that it was on PS3. Because when I did the remote play for PSP, I did it for Bionic Commando and something else, and it feels like it's just disconnected. It's unplayably weird. Wow. Even on a great connection, it's unplayably weird. I was in my house next to the damn system and it was just it was bad. It was you need to be fluid, it needs to be fast, and it was just none of that. I was dying and I didn't know where I was going. It was really bad. But apparently they fixed it, and that's making me want the system more and more and more. But the thing that makes me want the system more and more and more and more, crazy as shit, 10-year-old game. More than 10-year-old game. Final Fantasy X. So it's a little bit more than 10 years old. Yeah, but it's an RPG that I don't know if anyone feels the same way as I feel about these type of things, where it's sometimes with a handheld, you don't want to have anything that's a third-person shooter or even a first-person shooter. You don't want to have anything where all this precision comes down. No. Sometimes being on a fixed screen on a game, like Loco Roco or Patapon or Lumines, I actually noticed my favorite PSP games that I've clocked in the most hours or beaten numerous times have always been games that were on a fixed screen. You're not focusing on anything. You could look down and you're moving. It's either left, right, up, down, all this other fancy. Final Fantasy X is very much like that. It's not an action-based thing. It's turn-based. So I'm essentially just going up, down, D-pad, pressing what I need to do all my attacks, bam, goes to the right to do my summons. It's not Kingdom Hearts. I'm not jumping and slashing and all this other fancy shit. None of that's going on. So I don't need to sit there and have to concentrate on what's going on. Sometimes when you're playing a handheld game and you're playing Kingdom Hearts and you're doing all that shit, you gotta concentrate on everything that you're doing.
Like, if you look at my DS collection, even my PSP collection, you look at that as literally 95% of it is RPGs. I feel like I love I love playing RPGs on the go because it's just like you said. It's just I don't need to be paying attention to it 24/7. If I'm walking down the street, I can play an RPG while I'm on my DS because I just like attack.
Essentially,
make sure I'm not bumping into anybody. Okay, cool. Attack. It's like
got that car driving at that red light. Bam, level up.
Exactly.
Level up game. So I like that feeling with that. That's one of the things I've always felt with this platform. That it's like with the PSV, it's the weirdest thing, but it's like how I feel with the 3DS. I'm not even buying a 3DS. Mind you, okay, Animal Crossing New Leaf is releasing, okay, tomorrow. It is released, is past midnight, so clearly, this is the day Animal Crossing New Leaf is being released. And Craig knows how fucking badly I wanted this game. To let you guys know how badly I wanted Animal Crossing New Leaf. Craig purchased me a present at GameStop, and this was a GameStop card last year for Christmas.
Yes.
I spent that whole damn thing pre-ordering New Leaf for 6 months later.
For a system you
That's how much I like this game. Now, Animal Crossing, that's an exception to handheld stuff, is Animal Crossing. Now,
well, even if you look at Animal Crossing, it's a very slow pace.
It is. It's very exact. You're not really going in and doing, like focusing on anything. It's one of these games where there is no type of twitch, fast type of none of that's going on. All right, you're just going in and doing some slow shit. There's nothing to concentrate on. Enemies aren't like bombarding the shit out of you. So it's like you could essentially play it anywhere and still not feel like you have to concentrate on what's going on too much.
Right.
Now, the only game I was going to get that wasn't Animal Crossing, that was for the 3DS, was going to be Shin Megami Tensei 4. Now, I've started to notice that I only want to seem to get one of these handhelds with an RPG that is of turn-based nature. So I feel that this is, for us gamers, what makes us safe about wanting to get a handheld is sort of that guarantee that it's going to be a good game.
Yeah.
And what's more of a guarantee to buying a handheld than a fucking game we've played a lot of times. So I've actually only played Final Fantasy X like about 3 to 2 times. Craig's probably played this game like 10 times.
I can't.
If not more than that.
I'm ready. As soon as this game comes out, dude, I'm ready.
Exactly. And the counts of
I'm ready. It's not even a joke. It's not even like, oh man, whatever. I've already beaten this game 9 times. I guess I can get the issue. No, I'm fucking ready.
And what's so funny is the count of Craig playing this game has like increased. It's like the ticker is already ready to increase more and more. It's like
when they announced that this game was coming out, I went back and played it.
Pretty much. Craig was like, I want to see what I want to do. Pretty much.
Basically.
So it's like there's a lot of times where even whether it's a remake, whether it's a new addition to that game series, like Metal Gear, or any game that kind of has like that storyline that follows through. Some of the times you get that new game coming out, you're like, fuck, man, I really want to play Final Fantasy or Metal Gear Solid 4 is coming out. I want to play Metal Gear Solid 3, and then you start that cycle over again. And then the HD version comes out, you're like, damn, I really want to play Metal Gear Solid 3. In HD, and then the cycle begins again.
Yeah.
So it's like there's a lot of old classic games that we like to play like over and over again. And the strange thing is, I've yet to get that feeling with any game this generation. And it's not to say bad games released this generation. There were really a lot of good games that released this generation. And realistically, like, hey, this generation's not done. The Last of Us could be that for one of us.
That's
Beyond
true.
Two Souls could be that for one of us.
Very true.
For all we know, The Guardian could be that for one of us.
Right.
Metal Gear Solid 5 could be that for one of us. So realistically, like,
Metal Gear 5, don't even lie. Metal Gear 5 will be that.
It's going to be that for me because it's an open world Metal Gear Solid again, returning to the Metal Gear Solid 3 roots, and B, it's Big Boss. Like, seriously, and it's a prequel. All right, the prequels have been like historically better than the ones that continue.
Yes.
So we've confirmed 5 will be one of those games that I will play like several fucking times just because.
Statistically showing.
Statistically, a Metal Gear that has released of the second Metal Gear of the console generation. Of the prequel versions of the Metal Gears. Not the ones that continue the series, but the prequels of the series.
That is pretty funny, actually. I never really thought of it like that.
I feel it's easier. Craig's a writer, and I'm an artist, and I write a little bit, but I love drawing concept stuff. I think the idea of something that is a prequel to something that's already happened is funner to tell and easier to tell a lot of times than something that continues it. So it's like a lot of times, because you already have a story where, let's say, a guy walks on the street and he has a scar on his face, and then he steps on some poo and then a bus hits him. Now, now that sounds crazy, but when you're writing the prequel to this, Craig,
yes,
you're writing the prequel to this. You're kind of like, okay, I'm gonna make that guy give him the scar, and then now I'm gonna show why he doesn't like having poop on his shoe, and I'm also gonna write why he walks into the street, who the bus driver is. So
they fear of buses.
Exactly. So when you play that prequel, you're like, oh my fucking game. That's how he got that scar on his face. Oh my god, this is why he's so scared of poo. And this is why he's scared of shit as buses. Wow, it all makes sense. This is why I feel sometimes prequels get away with this, because they start to make this invisible web that never existed before. This game happens, they're like, yeah, ocelots. You know, mom's the joy. And they're like, yeah, that was the sorrow.
I mean, yeah, things like that can be cool, but again, sometimes it can be overdone.
It is.
Like,
Sometimes it can be
like what was it? Kojima and the bird theory.
Yes, I love that. I love that because it's so funny. All right, there's this little theory that's like running around that the bird that the end has, that's in Metal Gear Solid 3, is essentially going to be the ancestor of like the next bird that's essentially Emma's bird in Metal Gear Solid 2.
Yeah,
so it's like,
basically the bird of Metal Gear Solid 2 and the bird of Metal Gear Solid 3, they're
like,
part of the same family. They're the same family.
It's funny.
So like, why though?
It's funny because like they're making these stupid connections that don't make no sense, like how Sigid from Metal Gear Solid 3 is a dark witch. Spoiler. And then if you didn't know,
on like a 5-year-old game.
Pretty much like if you didn't know, fuck you. But it's like there is a time period. We should discuss that later on. But
that should be an episode in and of itself. When is it okay to announce?
There is a time period where spoilers are just free game. We don't care.
I hate when
you should have played Final Fantasy 7. Nigga. I don't give a fuck.
I hate when like they have like retro reviews. They'll be like playing like Ocarina of Time, for instance. And like they'll be talking about it like, oh yeah, game's good. By the way, the game ends in 2 timelines. Spoiler, and then people get like legit mad. Like, oh really? You really gonna get mad that like? It's like I feel like now it's okay for everyone to say like, oh yeah, at the end of Sixth Sense, Bruce Willis is dead. It's like,
common knowledge, nigga. Thank you.
Exactly.
I look at it like
it's been so long now. Like, just get over it.
If it is a popular film, if it is a film that is like, it's overly popular, everybody knows it. Okay, the most famous one, I'm going to say Star Wars.
Right.
So if you have a scene where he's basically this person's father, and he makes a stay in line where it kind of breaks everything, you're like, oh, say what? I feel something like that is so famous that it's like, why should everybody have to tiptoe around the sons of bitches that haven't seen it? I mean, I myself admittedly has not seen the whole series, but I at least admit to not knowing of or seeing it. But I also basically let myself fall victim to, things will be spoiled for me. But that's my own fucking fault for not watching the series.
Exactly.
So I just look at it as, look, if the series, I'm just going to cover my eyes, run away. Mm-hmm. There's nothing you could do about that. That's only if you plan to give a fuck. Don't blame the people that clearly have seen it and enjoy it, because some few didn't happen to help themselves to it. But it's like, with a lot of games, I feel for gaming, this should be the rule. You pass one fucking generation. Yes. It's free game.
As soon as the PS4 is released, done.
It's free game.
I'm saying the ending to every single PS3 game ever.
Oh. And I look at it like this. It's only appropriate maybe if it's an ending generation game like The Last of Us and Beyond and what was it? The Last Guardian and some other games. If it's like those ending generation, PlayStation.
Even Bioshock Infinite right now. Be careful.
Yes, those are all like, hey, look, 5 years from now, go to town on the bitch, all right? But now, you just don't want to say that. People are still playing it. It's just released. You want to wait till that next generation. That's where it's safe to say, hey, look, all right, this shit happens, all right? And Yuna and you, Yevon, and they go at the ending of the game. Jet's there, but he's not the main bad guy. It's New Yevon. It's New Yevon is the bad guy in Final Fantasy X. Now you know. But we're definitely excited for FF10.
Sure. If you haven't noticed.
If you had not noticed, but that's apparently going to be at E3. They'll talk more about if there even is a connectivity between both of them, because I want there to be. Okay, I buy one version and then I get to play the other one on my PlayStation 3. I want there to be some connectivity, because I like the idea of I take my PSP or my PSV, I go to work, and I level up a little bit on those what was it, the planes? They're called something planes.
The far planes? Not far. I'm sorry, the Comlands. You're probably
Comlands. So I go into Comlands, level up a little bit, save. I feel like going home and saying, I feel like leveling up on my fat HD TV screen. Let me go play the PlayStation 3 version, plug in my PSP, bam, bam, transfer. There you go. I'm playing in the Comlands. Right. I like that idea, like what they did with Kojima was saying with this whole transferring thing with the MGS games that were on PSV or PSP to the systems. I like that understanding because it's so cool. It's just something where I'm playing the game and I have another version, and all this is doing is saying take whatever things happened and putting that data back on there. This very much is something I feel can happen with the PSV to PlayStation 3, and I really see no reason why it can't.
It almost reminds me of like the Dreamcast days where they had like the little memory card and like Sonic Adventure, like you could like level up your Chow on your little thing. Yeah, and then like as soon as you come back, just plug that shit back in. Go to the game, download. All of a sudden, that Chow's so much stronger now.
That was that Tamagotchi shit that was going on. So.
Basically, that's all it was.
But I mean, if that game could do that, I feel the small amount of data that I feel it takes to just say that you leveled up, or even that a cutscene happened, I feel like that's something that is very minimal.
Listen, I'm at this level now, and I saved at this spot.
Put
me there now.
Thank you. Now, I feel like things can get much more complex if you have other things that might factor into it, but I really want that to be something they announce. If they don't announce it, I'm fine with that too. I actually might plan to buy 2 versions of this game. Most of the time I really don't, but like as of right now, it's like I do want to play Final Fantasy X in HD, clearly on an HD TV.
Right.
But I mean, this is a handheld version of Final Fantasy X, so it's so hard to say like yes to one and no to the other. I'm gonna probably end up saying yes, not at the same time, because I feel I'll probably end up purchasing one over the other, and then later during the next generation next year.
That'd be an interesting thing.
I'll help myself. But we shall be giving much of a fuck about that.
Oh, for sure. But then, more Square news.
More Square stuff. Square's not done with you.
Yeah, so basically at E3, like we said, we're talking about Final Fantasy X. We're also going to be showing...
Their brand new IP.
Well, let's wait for that. Wait, you want to talk about Murder first?
There's not really a lot to talk about. Like, Square announced their brand new IP, actually earlier this week. It was called Murder Soul Suspect. And apparently it's a game it looks like an action-adventure game. I think it's by Eidos. I didn't read the whole thing, but something's telling me it's by Eidos anyway. It's very Western.
Yeah,
so
the concept seems Eidos.
Yeah, so something happens to some guy, and he is a detective, and he ends up getting killed. And during this trailer, this guy ends up getting murdered and killed, and he's going after the guy, and then he realizes that he himself has been murdered. And he's now looking for the sole suspect. See what I did there? You crazy.
He was murdered.
So he's finding the guy, and apparently he has all these other little spirit powers. And from what I've seen from like the trailer and some of the little snippets from the game and little details here and there, is that like these little black like demon things like chase the shit out of you, and you need to get away from them. And to get away from them, you could like possess people. I guess go inside of them, and the people kind of don't know where you are. There's all these other weird ghost things that you could do. It looks really, really interesting.
Like make pots with your girlfriend.
Pretty much. You could like put pennies on doors and go on the other side.
Oh yeah.
I miss Patrick Swayze. God rest his soul. Patrick, that is a great American actor. But in other non-Patrick Swayze movies, we can talk about Patrick Swayze all day. In other non-Patrick Swayze movies. there have been more things to be released. I don't know if I want to talk about this next, but there's like, because that's like mega done.
Oh no, let's talk about
you could drop some other like 14.
Yeah, we're also gonna be looking at Final Fantasy 14. If you don't know, well, if you do know, like, you may have known Final Fantasy 14 was already released. What you may not have known is that it was complete crap, and they were deciding to just do it all over again. So
they didn't like the game.
Yes, no one liked the
game. They did what is very rare in this industry. They got a second chance and they did a do-over. So very.
They literally said like, "Hey guys, sorry, we're just gonna pull this right back and we're gonna try again.
We made a mistake. Here we go."
So yeah, it's gonna be called Final Fantasy 14: A Realm Reborn, and honestly, I was looking forward to 14 when it was coming out. I was watching it a lot. I was really paying attention. I was a really big fan of 11. Final Fantasy 11 was a really good game. So when 14 was announced, I was like, okay, cool, let's see what they got. And then it came out, I heard it was shit, so I just completely forgot about it. So now Realm Reborn's coming out. I'm not sure exactly what they're changing. I'm not sure. Maybe they're just like keeping the same idea, but actually putting shit into the game that you can actually do and enjoy and have fun with. Which would be fantastic, which is what that game actually needs. Because literally there's just nothing to fucking do in that game.
From what I've seen from like PC gamers, like little like snippet of like I guess it was a preview build or whatever they were playing from it. They kind of went out and said everything that's different about the game. One of the big key differences is that some of the races now you could play a different sex of some of the races. I didn't know this, but some of that elf girl that was on Final Fantasy like 12 or something, one of her races are in that game, but her race was only female on that game, and apparently like that's the way they did it. But now they said that you could either play males and females of like every race now. They also added that you could jump, which I didn't even know you couldn't do in the other one. Apparently you could jump in this game.
That's weird.
So I heard that the entire engine was like, or the graphical stuff is being made from the ground up. There's more detail in the game. They went balls deep in terms of redoing everything.
I was just saying that's not like the two big features that's the difference.
You should definitely read the preview because I wasn't even interested in 14, but this made me interested in 14. Even with it actually being subscription, I'm semi-interested in 14. So I'm going to go ahead and put a link on the site on the bottom, so that way you could play. You could also read the preview build, so you can all help yourselves. And it's going to be by PC Gamer. You could read about what these differences were.
Right.
I don't want to go in full detail.
The other thing is to say that they're also... There's talks of actually porting into like PS4 and things like that, though.
Yeah, I mean, they hadn't said anything like that, but it is news that the PlayStation 3 version is releasing, I guess, day and date with the PC version in August. And Marcos told me this, good buddy of mine. He let me know that, I read this and he told me this, and I would have forgot we had not been talking about this days ago, so big ups there. But your account can be transferred if you own the PC version. Or excuse me, if you own a PlayStation 3 version. So apparently if you own a PlayStation 3 version, you could have that.
You technically have both.
Yes, you technically have both, which I actually really, really like. That's really a show of good faith by Square to really do something like that. I'm not really 100% sure how that works. I don't know if you need to own both versions or if they give you a code to another version. But that's a huge deal if it is.
Servers are cross-play too. Like if I own a PS3 copy and you own a PC copy, would it still be possible to play?
I don't think it's cross-play. I think it's if you wanted to transfer that character information. Let's say you leveled up hardcore on PC and you felt like basically transferring that person on PlayStation 3, you could then do that. But I don't know if it's vice versa. I don't know if you could do that on PlayStation 3 and take it. But with PlayStation 3 having USB ports and being able to export really anything, I think it's both. But to my understanding, I've only know of the PC being able to go on the PlayStation 3 in terms of changing or adding character stuff on there, which is kind of cool.
Well, even so, like I said, they're probably going to be talking about it at E3 this year, so that is something to look out for.
And I would just say, because of Final Fantasy 11 releasing on 360 like years ago, I would honestly, I would put it on them that they will release a PlayStation 4 and Xbox.
It was even on the PS2. You remember?
Yeah, I remember that. I definitely remember that.
That's where I played it. I played it on the PS2.
Because I wanted to make a point that went from PlayStation 2.
Go figure, the first MMO I've ever played was on a console.
Which is not that bad. No. One of the first biggest MMOs, which was EverQuest, was on PlayStation 2. Oh, so it's like EverQuest 1 and 2 were like so big on that platform that it's like MMOs would not even be what they are today without those two games. Those two games are essentially like MMO starters for a lot for the mass people that play MMOs. So it's like as strange as it sounds that MMOs are the absolute norm on PC. The best MMO, to my understanding, began on a console. Right. So it's like with things like Phantasy Star and games like EverQuest, there's a lot of people that got their first MMO taste of it on a console, which is really crazy when you think about it nowadays. Considering it's very like strange. Sony is very much doing a great job in terms of promoting MMOs on their platforms, especially from PlayStation 3's like earliness of first trying to get the MMOs on there and then eventually getting it. I mean, the deal that they had with Richard Garriott when he used to be with I forget the name of his older it was NCSoft. There was a deal that was apparently supposed to bring Guild Wars 2 to PlayStation 3 and along with another a handful of other MMOs that he was working on, which never ended up happening. So it would be cool if Guild Wars 2 made a jump on PlayStation 4. It would actually be pretty cool considering the architecture and considering a lot of people expected a lot of things to come from that deal, which nothing happening. But I'm like semi-excited. Like I said, I'll put the link up on the bottom so you guys can read all the details.
It's like still, even though like they're doing this whole Realm Reborn thing, to me it's like I've already lost interest in it.
It is
like,
not. It is not a Realm Reborn.
They've already messed up.
They've messed
14,
up enough.
It's just I don't want to play the MMO. Like, I'd rather. I've always had a problem personally with them having the MMOs as a numbered Final Fantasy anyway.
I did too. I felt personally it should have been a completely separate series.
Or just call it Final Fantasy Online. Leave it at that. Final Fantasy Online 2.
I look at it like this. They have Final Fantasy Tactics, and I personally feel like if you have tactics and you have different because the tactics style of RPG is completely different than your regular turn games. So I feel like why name it that and then you have an MMORPG
they've had several other subgenres. Like you've had, like you said, they've had tactics. They've had Mystic Quest. I
forgot about
They've had Legends. They've had Crystal Chronicles.
Which or something like that. I remember that series. That was a good series.
Yeah, there's so many subgenres of Final Fantasy. It's like it wouldn't be weird if you called it something else.
So I'm a bit weirded out that they're still doing that, but at the same time, it's like the only thing we could say now is like they've already started to
you can't really stop it.
So you can't stop it. It's at a point right now where it's like it would probably make more sense if they continue doing it than if they were to stop.
Yeah, but, to me it was always a weird decision, but I mean it's not like, oh man, Final Fantasy 13 would have been so much better if it was called Final Fantasy 12 instead. So but, it really makes no difference.
True. If it's one of these small things where it's like if we could go back in time and change it and help square out, we would.
Exactly.
We'd be like, hey,
send them a quick email. Hey, just
you call this Final Fantasy 1
FFO.
Something else.
Call FFO.
You call it FFO something else. Well, it's subtitle, something else, put on the shades. Dude. Dude. But I'm definitely I'm pretty interested in Final Fantasy 14. It's one of these strange games where it's like if I had a whole lot of time to play a game, I would give a fuck. But it's like with the limited time I have, I want to spend it playing the best. And it's like I don't really have the time to afford to play a game that may not be something I like. And with an RPG, you have to devote like a whole lot of time to figure out whether you want to.
Yeah.
So
So with that, everyone thumbs up. Thumbs down.
I give a thumbs up. In terms of predictions about how it's going to be presented there, I'm going to go on the limb and say I'm going to predict that they will announce a PlayStation 4 version, just based on the whole PC architecture and based on them. This like they did with PS2 to bringing it to 360. I don't see it as a far stretch to see them jump Final Fantasy 14 to 2 next-gen platforms, considering this is not just a one-generation type game. This game is going to last for a long time.
For sure.
So I see it being on those future platforms just for graphical reasons, for update reasons, and for keeping it out there. And plus how easy it is to port.
Exactly, like you said, the architecture too. It seems like it's like a no-brainer almost if this game is going to be on the PS4.
So I'm definitely going to go on a limb and say my prediction is it will be on PS4 and Xbox One. So
it makes the most sense.
And it's because it's subscription. So
and with that,
we have some more snippets of fancy news.
So now we have talked about this before,
We'll say this right before. Lightning Returns will be.
Oh yeah, damn, we skipped that.
No one cares about that. Lightning Returns.
We totally skipped that. Yeah, so
Lightning Returns will be at E3, but so will Call of Duty. You were saying something about something we've talked about before.
Yes.
We're just gonna skip it. You were saying.
I really did not even mean to skip it. It's just kind of like I saw that. I'm just like.
Yeah, I did.
So yeah, just to cover it briefly, like Evan said, Lightning Returns, which is if you don't know, which is basically Final Fantasy 13-3.
There's no mystery.
Going to be the epic conclusion to the Final Fantasy 13 trilogy.
Go God.
So
can it just not exist?
It will.
I just want to say that it'll be there. Moving on. I hate it so much.
Yeah, it's just,
I feel like
what you just said there basically sums it up. It's like it's gonna be there, and we're gonna watch it, and then we're just gonna move on.
That's so exciting. And basically, it's more exciting knowing that it will end. It's almost like the only excitement I have is that it'll be the last.
What they need to do is in the Sony press conference, if they come and say oh. Now introducing Square-enix. They just need to show the trailer. Don't even have anyone come out yet. Just show the trailer, get it over with, and then start their conference.
Yeah, and they should just have it right where Wada. Oh yeah, Wada's not there no more. he's dead or something. No, but they need to have it where the new Square.
Insult to injury. They should have him come and introduce the game, and then go away.
Get out of here. Go away. They should show him getting a bag of money, and there's a dollar sign. They just give him they just essentially pay him a whole lot of ones. They're gonna pay him a couple thousand to come there, but they're gonna be all in ones. They'd be douchebags. And all the ones are dirty and urine all over them. It's just stacks of dollar signs on them.
You're not gonna get the sack of money. So you actually say this line. He's gonna gonna chuck the bag.
There's gonna be two bags.
Chuck the bag off stage, and he's gonna walk. He's gonna pick up all the loose ones that fell out of the bag as it fell.
Yes, because he needs somehow. He needs that money. What they're going to do is they'll give him the first sack when he walks on stage and promise him the second one when he sits and has to say. Fucking bastard Water, he makes me see. He's ruined this generation for this company. I swear to God.
He really has.
I don't own a game from this company. It's generation. I own the bulk of the best Square games released last year. I own all of them. This generation. Oh no, I just stay the fuck away from those guys. It's sad to say that we're ending this generation in terms of the Square games that I will own will be Final Fantasy X and the Kingdom Hearts collection. So you're telling me the only Square games are going to own this generation?
Or just
the highest versions of the ones released last generation? God damn, Wally, you son of a bitch. But
it's pretty sad.
But I want them to just get Lightning out of the way because we have more important news to talk about than this nasty garbage Lightning Returns.
Yeah, so we'll just move on.
Call of Duty's being released, Madden's being released. This is news.
Like I said, I'll still have to play it, unfortunately.
You will, because you've already started that.
Exactly.
That train is
I'm already 2 games in. I might as well finish.
Train's already left the station, Craig. You're playing that shit.
Alright, so Murder, Final Fantasy X, 13-3, 14.
And this is our fanciness because we did talk about this before, and I'm
yeah, we did touch on this on one of the episodes of the podcast. I forget which one.
It was episode 2.
Oh, there you go, episode 2, and that is Versus 13. Well, we'll start this call Versus 13.
Versus 13. Because that is the big MacGuffin. But our rumor that we talked about in episode 2, a little RPG cast, was that the perfume company and the clothing company had accidentally listed Final Fantasy 15 as the name of the title instead of 13. Though we think that was an accident.
Perfume's been delayed, by the way. If you're looking to get that perfume, it has been delayed.
I did not even know that.
Yeah, I literally right before we started this, I read the article. I saw an article titled Final Fantasy Versus 13 perfume delayed.
Hilarious, just like the game.
So yeah, give it a couple months, and you might be able to smell like your favorite Final Fantasy characters.
Yay! But how we got this leak originally, a month or two prior, had to do with them listing Final Fantasy 15 instead of Versus 13. So my belief is this is just how Destiny got leaked out. Destiny was not everything from prior to Destiny getting leaked out in terms of all their contract deals getting leaked out. a little bit after that whole contract deal got leaked out, the marketing company that was supposed to do the marketing stuff for Destiny, if anybody's seen the commercials as of late, the CG commercial and all that fanciness, that company, I guess people, it's easy to leak the infrastructures around them. Like, of course, you can't get to Bungie and to leak their stuff to see what they're doing, but these websites are easy penetrable. They're just regular advertising firms like anywhere else. So if Bungie gives them information about the game, you could therefore read that information about that game and say, okay, this is what the game's about, because they're trying to say, hey, look, we need you to market this for us. We're just going to give you information so we have a guy narrate and say these things. So now we know what the game's about because of what that marketing company did. So this perfume company is almost the exact same way. Mm-hmm. They're being told, hey, look, market the game for us. You can have your perfume, or the clothing design from you guys will be the clothing used in the game. And we think it's a great partnership. You get your clothing deal advertised. Everybody gets a nice, glamorous look of how everyone looks like in the game. So if that's something that can happen, or that deal comes to fruition with them, it's not their fault that somebody hacks the site and finds out the name of some of these things. Mm-hmm. They have to know these things. They need to know, look, if we're putting the name Final Fantasy 15 on the bottle, we need to have somewhere that we know that's what the name's being called. Yeah. If we're going to be printing out a coat that has Final Fantasy 13 or Final Fantasy 15 as the name tag, we need to know that. Mm-hmm. So they clearly got this information, listed it on the website, and everybody was running rampant of, oh my god, Final Fantasy Versus is not Final Fantasy 15. And this is the only link that you have from Versus. Now, we could say Versus was canceled, and that same perfume company just happened to get the deal with Final Fantasy 15. Right. And let's say Final Fantasy 15 is futuristic, and that clothes will be being worn in 13. Or we could go with the next rumor that we've recently heard, and that this guy off of NeoGAF, which seems to have some pretty okay credibility in terms of localization, states that Squaresoft is localizing, or Square-enix is localizing the game, and that it's going to be Final Fantasy 15 and not Final Fantasy 13. So the name change might have to do with several things. It might have to do with that they don't want it to sound like it ties into another trilogy that they already own, because they don't want people to say, oh fuck, I've already played 13, I don't want to play this. Or they don't want people to say, I didn't play, because I personally didn't play 13. So if I'm one of these gamers that's like an on and off type of gamer, and I glance and see, oh no, Final Fantasy 13 Final Fantasy 13 Light Lane. If I see Final Fantasy Versus, what makes them think I'm going to say, oh shit, I ain't playing that game? Right. They don't want that to happen, because if they feel that people didn't, because statistically, the Final Fantasy 13 games have not sold up to what the other previous series have sold up to. Like, I think the second one sold like 2-something million. It sold worse than Final Fantasy X2. If that sounds crazy to anybody. Worse than X2. And X2 sold like 5-6 million. If you consider X2 sold 5 million or 6 million, and you consider that Final Fantasy 13 sold 7 million, there's where your issue might come up.
The difference is Final Fantasy X-2 followed up a very well received game.
It did, and but even with that, you would have to take in consideration it did sell less, and it was on a single platform versus selling on both platforms and being hyped up to no avail.
That's a very good point.
So it's like, when I look at it like that, it's like, I don't want to say Square failed, or I don't want to say, they lost money, because clearly they made money off of the game, but I feel they didn't make the projected money that they could have made. Right. A lot of times when you think about the sales of something, you always want to think, okay, yeah, 7 million is a good amount of sales. But look at it like this. If I own a diamond, yeah, $10,000 is a lot of money, Craig. Is that diamond really worth that? Right. So it's like, it's nothing to really do with that. Yeah, they are making a good return back, but it's not that maximum profit that they 100% could make. Mm-hmm. And I feel that they 100% could have made a great killing on that game if they were able to get it to be what the Final Fantasy name should live up to, realistically. So a lot of people feel like, okay, maybe that's not the case. There were some games that tanked this generation, but look at it this way. On a single platform, GTA went on to do large numbers. Mm-hmm. When you consider this game to 22 million units, on a single platform, you have to take an instance, okay, on each system, they sold close to 10 million. Right. San Andreas went on to do like 16 million on a single platform. So when you see these numbers and you see that, okay, it's being released on both units, I personally really, really, truly do feel, especially when you look at GT, Gran Turismo 5's numbers of doing like 9 million units, I truly, truly, truly feel if Final Fantasy 13 was made in the vein that the rest of the Final Fantasies were made in, on a single platform, and was able to euthanize the entire Blu-ray disc, to not have to do all these shortcuts because of space limitations or hardware limitations, I truly believe it would have sold better. But it's like, you also have to take in the instance all the money being taken for both platforms. You have to have R&D. You have to have different programmers working on there. It's just really a lot of money being spent. Even the game even being pushed back might have specifically been to work out these deals with Microsoft. They actually get it on their platform or get their support to begin with.
Right.
So I felt that they could have did better this generation. So my opinion is, I truly feel that attitude they had going into 13 in getting the low sales that they got preceding the rest of the games has had them at a feeling of maybe we don't want to name these games with 13 because we don't want anybody who didn't buy it to not buy the rest.
Exactly.
Even the PSP version of Final Fantasy, I think it was called the Gito, but it's now Typo. It used to be called the Gito. It's now just Final Fantasy Typo.
Exactly.
I don't know if it has a 13 in it, but
no, it doesn't.
Okay, it doesn't. So then that's exactly what I'm thinking.
Yeah, it's exactly the same. It's exactly the same thing. It's like, why? To me, if something doesn't have anything to do with this particular thing, why would you then market it in a way that would associate it with it? Like you're saying, like, why would I put the number 13 in my game if it didn't have anything to do with the other 13s? To me, that's just confusing. It's confusing the average gamer that's going to think, okay, do I have to play these other 3 games now?
Yeah, that is very true.
Do I need to buy all these? Because in that case, why would I want? I'm not going to go 4 games in just because I want to play this one.
That's very true. They don't want to scare the market away.
Yeah,
they don't want people to have to feel that they have to be in this club of only playing the other games to play.
Exactly.
I feel it's done for that reason. I don't want to say it's because Final Fantasy 13 didn't do what it wanted to do. It's also exactly what Craig stated, that, okay, look, other companies will market the game differently because they don't want you to think that this is a sequel to those games and that you had played those games to get into the sequel. Final Fantasy 15 sounds new. It sounds different. It sounds bold. Exactly. Just the name of 15 sounds like this is new. This is you're gonna get it. We know 14 exists. We know 13.
5.
Yes.
This is supposed to be something special.
Things are happening in this bitch. So it's like I'm very. It's like to have a Final Fantasy game that does do that. I think is a big deal. To name it 15, you have to be going balls deep, and you have to be rolling a hard 6 on this. And I believe how Square is doing it. They have to. The way Square's new president was talking about Reborn. Even though we don't really like what they did with 14, you give it a thumbs down, I give it a thumbs up for our predictions. But I put it this way: if I don't like the game, I don't really like too much of what they did with the past one. If there's something I could give to Square now, is that they really, really, truly are trying.
Right.
If there's one thing I've seen from them recently of all the previews they did with Rebirth, is to say they held panels. They listened to people, they got rid of people, and they hired new people. The dude they hired that's now doing Final Fantasy 14, in fact, used to work. Now, he didn't used to work, he used to play all these MMOs while being a developer. He's like ranked on some of these MMOs as some of the best. So it's like, to get this dude that knows MMOs and to be ranked on all these MMOs that are in Asia is a big deal. It's to say, hey, look, we know what you want to play. We hired a guy that knows. Yes, exactly. To say we hired a guy that played them is a big deal. So my personal opinion about Square now is that they really, really are trying to get rid of Iwata, to get rid of some of the other key members, and to say, hey, look, we hired this new guy. We're focusing really hard on this, that, and the third, and to completely redo a game. Nobody gets a chance in this industry to do something like that. This industry is hard fucking core. It's not like the movie industry. You could blow more fucking money in the movie industry and still break even. You could release that G.I. Joe movie. As shit as a movie it is, that shit's making money somewhere. And even if you feel that, oh man, we're not going to be able to make that return, you'll make that return off of a Netflix deal. You'll probably make that return off of the DVD. So
you have so many avenues of revenue.
So it's like with gaming, it's pretty much this. It is current. It's not. There's a lot of movies 5-6 years ago you could still watch. Shit, Iron Man released around that long ago. You could still watch that shit today, and it doesn't look dated at all. With the game industry moves fast as shit. 5 years from now, we could look at something that's 5 years old, and it's gonna look like crap. It's as simple as that. And it's not like I'm gonna say, oh yeah, I'm gonna buy brand new. I'm buying it used. So I look at it like this. They know that they're in a situation where they lost money from 14, but instead of just saying, fuck it, let's just ride it out and make our returns off of subscriptions, they say, you know what, we're not going to release this game. We're going to take it back. People who paid for the subscriptions, we're going to take it offline, take the servers offline. We're redoing this game.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody gets a chance to do that. And to redo that is something I've never really heard of a company doing. So to really change the core of everything happening at Square makes me truly feel that it will be Final Fantasy 15 for marketing reasons. For they have to get this game out. They need to get people excited about the company again.
Right.
And the other tidbit of this rumor as well, which I forgot to tell you guys, is that part of the rumor is that it's going to release on the PlayStation 4. Another part of the rumor is that Sony's apparently co-developing this game, or essentially aiding them in the marketing. They're essentially helping them do something with this project. So the likeliness is that it could be an exclusive just based on the numbers, the poor sales that 13 did on 360, or the idea that Final Fantasy 13, I believe, never even released in the East for that platform. So I believe that it's a likeliness because Sony and Eidos have published for Square before in the past. So I don't really put it as that unheard of that they would do this. I know Square is trying to be like Capcom somewhat this generation with how they're releasing the titles, but I don't want to say they are trying to be like them just because they only did it with one title. The rest of the titles are either only on handheld or only on one platform and only on this, that, and the third. So I feel that this rumor might be true simply because we already heard about the clothing and perfume thing, and I was telling Craig this prior, I personally actually feel that there's more chance of this clothing and perfume designer probably being right about this than even the guy that leaked this on NeoGAF, simply because they don't know any better.
Yeah.
What do they care about the game industry? They're nothing but clothing manufacturers. You think they care to say, let's joke around, fuck around, put Final Fantasy 15 on one of our bottles? They need to know this stuff in order to make that happen.
Can't wait for this to land on M4G.
LOLs, hellos. So they're not going to do something like that. So it starts to really make me think that there's probably some truth to this. I know that this game has probably lost them a lot of money, and the only way I see them recouping it is they got to release it now on PlayStation 3 ending of this year, right, so they can recoup some of those losses because that install base, or they could make this the next game for PlayStation 4. They could say this game will release either at launch or launch window, or hey, look, it's gonna, because if it's the only RPG there, that shit is gonna sell a shitload.
Yeah,
I mean,
though
we know that, okay, if the game releases ending of next year, if you get it released on PlayStation 3 as Versus and you call it Versus 13, the biggest issue you now start running with is people start thinking it's that game.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, even if you want to say, hey, let's call it Final Fantasy 15, but release it on PlayStation 3 anyway, you then might get a lot of people questioning, like, okay, why was it released on that system and not next gen? Or was your team working on Square? They already showed off an engine. What is that team working on?
Yeah.
Something's telling me they might want to roll a hard 6 on this one and say, fuck it, we're going balls deep, and we're going to make it a launch window platform for the PlayStation 4. It's a hard 6, but look at it like this. You're not competing with every game releasing current generation this year. This fall, we can say, okay, yeah, sure, Versus 13 is releasing on PlayStation 3 this fall. Okay, when I own a PlayStation 3, it's releasing alongside GTA. It's releasing alongside Beyond Two Souls. It's releasing with The Last of Us. It's releasing with a shitload of megaton current generation games that, let's be real, if you own a 360, you own a PlayStation 3, your ass is going, you already got your game set on what you want.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you say, hey, I'm getting an Xbox One, I'm getting a PlayStation 4, okay, you might have a couple of games you want. Name a RPG that's on there. This is what's telling me they're going to roll a hard 6 on it and say, fuck it. Because right now, you could get RPGs being released. There are RPGs being released for all platforms. But on next generation, I don't know of any. So if they go and roll a really hard one and say, fuck it, we're going to do it, they really could do well. If you look at it like this, Final Fantasy X, the life-to-date sales ended up going to close to 11 million units.
Right.
And that game released in 2001, a year after the PlayStation 2 release. If we're guessing this next one releases a year after PlayStation 4 releases, they could basically put themselves in the area to say, we are the only ones with a megaton Japanese RPG on this platform.
Mm-hmm.
Now, every person that buys this platform who wants to get their RPG fix, you're going to go here.
Right.
So I feel that the great thing you do is you essentially eliminate your competition. You're no longer competing against current generation with all the other next gen games. With all the other current gen games that are being released. They're going to be releasing a boatload because the systems are already done, manufactured, everything's finished to them. But you now get the chance to say, I'm the only one on this platform with this game.
Right.
So I think they're going to trade up what they're doing on PlayStation 3 and say, we're going to roll it and then take it on PS4.
True. I mean,
so that's a prediction I give like a close
it's all well and good. You want to put your console. Like, I love the idea. It sounds great. Like, yeah, put it on the PS4. You're not gonna be competing with anything. But then you always, like, in the back of my mind, I always think of the dangers of switching consoles mid-development.
Thank you.
Something bad always happens. I
agree with that. And it's strange because as much as I agree with what I'm thinking that I want to be that, I'm also literally just as much equally agreeing with what you're saying. That you're coming off of a complex architecture like PlayStation 3
and moving on
to a simpler one like PlayStation 4, but at the same time you don't have to work out the kinks from this last system. Another thing you have to deal with is what will be the graphical leap. Because we do know that the actual part of the engine of the Luminous engine is part of their Crystal Dynamics engine. Okay. So it's like the actual framework and basically the meat of that engine is a better of the engine that they're working on right now. So the engine that they have, Luminous engine right now, is just like a better version of the one they already do with not Crystal Dynamics. It was I think Chrysalis. It was some fucking shit. The Novus or some fucking weird ass shit. I forgot what it was called. But the Crystal, whatever the Crystal engine that they're working with. Square's current gen engine. But the framework of that engine is essentially what's being worked on with Luminous. So yeah, it could graphically be ported and they could make it look better. If anything, they could make it look like what the CG looks like on Versus, because those are clearly already computer rendered somewhere. And if you think about this, as crazy as it might sound for the CG of Versus to be the gameplay of the PS4 version, if you think about it, you already have games like Deep Down running on engine, games like or their own engine. Agnes's Philosophy's demo that was running on there. If you look at that looks no different than what we've seen on Versus as CG. So I feel that if they could go and pull off such a transition to taking the CG assets of that and putting it on the Luminous engine, I believe they could do a good job. If you're porting it, I believe the only way they get it working right is if they just say, we're going to have to release it next year at fall. That is that period of time where I feel it's good enough time for them to port it. It's good enough time to finish whatever they're probably finishing currently on the game, and be able to polish it up and make it look good. It running on a PC architecture, in my opinion, just lets them do it a little bit faster and a little bit better. So I feel that they could go back and make it look really, really good using a newer architecture like PC, like the x86 architecture. So I'm hoping that that's the case, but I hope that they don't get it. Like you were saying before, I hope they don't fall into any trouble when it comes to bringing this on another platform. For all we know, because we know PlayStation 3 games can't work on PS4 because of the infrastructure itself. For all we know, it might be a pain in the ass to port it. It may be near impossible. So it's like, I don't think it's near impossible to port, but I think it is a difficult task to try to port, and it may cost more money than if you would just straight up just bit the bullet and released it on PlayStation 3. Sure. So it's definitely, it's like now I can't give this prediction a thumbs up. I'm taking my thumb back, okay? And we're going to give this one a mid one. And what I say about mid thumbs up is my thumb especially is essentially at a horizontal angle here. This is like, could go up, could go down. So this is the big toss up. In terms of our roamers right now.
So it'll be very interesting to see first of all, what Final Fantasy 15 is, if we're even right that it is Versus.
That is true. I mean, it would be cool if Versus was shown there and Final Fantasy 15 was something else.
That would be crazy.
That's like, I feel that's like the best case scenario.
We are releasing Final Fantasy Versus for the PS3, but here's a new PS4 Final Fantasy. Yeah, but who knows? But I'm scared for it. I am scared for it because I want it to be good. I want it to be good so badly.
So I'm definitely like looking forward to what they do with it. Seeing like Square's new president kind of like talk about a lot of things. Seeing how Square's acting now as a company, I feel really, really, really positive of them going to this next E3. Because for me personally, it's a make it or break it for them. And for the industry, I think the rest of the industry sees this as a make it or break it for Square. So I personally feel that they know they have to go into the showing really hard. So I'm really, really anxious to see on Monday, Tuesday, what they really show with Battlefield. So we're all looking forward to that. We'll give you a link to the to the actual leak of the whole clothing thing, and I'll also give the link to the NeoGAF article as well, in which the guy kind of reveals some of these little baby tidbits. Now, to end off our podcast, we're going to put our predictions for all three of the companies. My predictions, for some of the three, are some obvious ones, some not so obvious ones.
Honestly, it's some of the stuff I guess we can you just want to start do one by one, or
with my predictions with Microsoft is, I think earlier this week they talked about the policy shit. They, for whatever reason, but it was a smart marketing move. A couple of days ago, they released this whole thing saying what the policies were on the platform, and so at E3 there is no wait till E3. They essentially a couple of days ago, yesterday, they reiterated that they're still blocking used games. It's the 24-hour check.
Yeah.
They essentially just went in and kind of
clarified.
They clarified everything. A lot of people wanted that, but like we're discussing on our other podcast in episode 5, it was not really about clarification. It was the fact that they were doing it.
Yeah.
So I don't really need to hear it any more clear. I know you're doing it, so it doesn't really change if you tell me any different way. So they're very much doing it still. So I think that means going into E3, they're saying it now because they don't want to talk about it at E3. They don't want to get bombarded with questions about it. Mm-hmm. They're just going to keep redirecting back to the same look at our policies thing. I don't think they want to talk about it on air.
Yeah.
So for them, my prediction is they're going to go in and, like I said before, Microsoft always comes out very, very aggressive those first couple of years. First 2 years, they come out pretty aggressive, and then kind of fizzle out like the rest of the generation. So my prediction for their big stuff, Killer Instinct. My other prediction is that going to be that they're going to show Halo 5, and that Black Tusk is going to be doing Halo 5, and that 343s is going to be working on Halo 6. Now, I had two different scenarios. One scenario was Black Tusk is making a brand new IP. Gears of War may not be exclusive to this platform anymore, considering Epic may go multi-platform with this game now.
Right.
So if that's the case, then it's very likely that Microsoft still wants those two heavy hitters year after year. They may want to say, hey, Black Tusk, make us this new great first-person shooter, and then 343, you make Halo. And then they kind of duel it like they did with Gears and Halo. So I feel that that's a strong possibility that they could do something like that. But at the same time, I think they might want to get a chunk of that Call of Duty pie and say, how about we release a Halo every year? Every year is a Megaton Halo year. It seems like a shareholder move to do too. Like some old guys like, a Halo every year would be the greatest thing for this company. A Halo every day would be the greatest thing for this company. So I feel that it seems like a very publisher move done.
Oh, no, for sure.
But that's a theory of mine. So my two theories, I can only go with one prediction. I don't think it's fair to go with two. So
this is the 10 things I think that might happen.
And if anything, I'll still get some sort of credit for I predicted one of them, even though I didn't go with that. I mean, come on, boy, call it. But I'm going with this, that Black Tusk is making a brand new first-person shooter IP, and that 343 is working on Halo 6. And that this new IT Black Tusk is working on will release ending of this year, Halo 6 ending of next. So they talked about those 15 exclusives.
Already up to 6, or you mean?
Or excuse me, 5. I was still thinking of the old theory of 4, of 5 and 6 releasing. But Halo 5 would release at the ending of next year, and Black Tusk's new game will release this year. So whatever their new hardcore first-person shooter would release ending of this year, and then dual releases with Halo's games. Another one of my predictions for them is that another company is going to do PGR for them. I feel that's one of the IPs that they have that's being brought back because it did good. It is an action-y type of racing series. And Microsoft has shown before that they have no problem outsourcing another team to make one of their own IPs. Right. So I feel that that's another thing that's going to happen. I feel the IP that Rare is working on as a prediction is Killer Instinct. I feel almost like me and you were talking about that last podcast, and I'm agreeing with it 110-fold. It's going to be Killer Instinct.
I feel the same way.
Because it's a fighting game. They want a fighting game at launch. They want that easy game at launch. Mm-hmm. Action, fighting, put a gun in front of it. People are going to buy the shit. Exactly. So they want something you don't even have to think about. So I feel Killer Instinct is that game. And clearly the next prediction, Connectimals. And then Connectimals, Connect 1, Connect Dance, Connect Dance.
You're going to see a lot of Connect stuff for sure.
Pretty much it's going to be a whole collectathon, Call of Duty, you're all a bunch of fanboy. games.
So basically, I mean, it basically comes down to Microsoft is like, what's these exclusives that they're going to be that they were talking about before, and how many are actually going to be showing at this conference? Like I said, how many?
They may not even show all of them there.
Like no, I'm not. I don't expect them to.
What I heard
honestly don't expect them to. Like, yeah, you're going to see your Kinect games. That's going to take a majority of them, for sure. You're going to get your Halo. You're going to get that one game. They might show something on that one game. Quantum Break game.
Oh yeah, I forgot.
They might show something else on that.
So there's definitely a lot that they're gonna show stuff on.
Oh, they need to.
But I'm leaning on like majority of those new IPs. I'm leaning on the big Kinect, baby.
You know, the majority of their conference is gonna be
Connectables.
Yeah.
I'm leaning on it being that because they've kind of done this a lot before.
Exactly.
Like
no matter how much we complain about it, it's just like, oh yeah,
it's the norm for them to come out some Kinect shit. So they're going definitely.
They already hired their elementary school class to come and demonstrate it for us.
Pretty much, it's like you
so
got that shit.
It should be very fun to watch.
It's very. The best thing about this is going to be those NeoGAF gifts for like Battlefield. It's going to be great. 4chan NeoGAF. We're going to be waiting for them on that day of the announcement. So I'm predicting NeoGAF gifts, Pedal Bear, Connectimals, Black Tusk making a new IP, Halo, Forza, pretty much all you. Crackdown 2. I'm predicting.
Oh, Crackdown.
Crackdown 3, which is like an easy one. With Sony's, that's a hard one. What Sony's is like, because of all the teams that they have, it's like we know they're going to show all 4. Mm-hmm. Clearly, that's not even a prediction. You know they're showing the damn system, price, all that fancy stuff.
Oh, yeah.
It's hard to predict what they're going to show because Sony, out of all the developers, I think is the most unpredictable coming to an E3. That's why it's very exciting to watch theirs more than anybody else's because they seem to always... they show more frequent new IPs to the point where it's like you always sit at the edge of your seat waiting for that and what's going on after that and what else are you gonna say? Because they always kind of do that and they're like even last like E3 when they're showing off these games, it's like just when you thought it was over, like oh yeah, by the way here's Beyond Two Souls, by the way here's Last of Us, see y'all next year. It's like no, that takes everybody by surprise. So knowing that Sony Santa Monica is going to be showing their brand new IP, it's going to be open world, and then it could be, you know, has third person stuff. It could be what's it called? Could be a first person like shooter, third person combat stuff. So I'm excited for any new IP of that. Naughty Dog is possibly. I heard Naughty Dog showing a new IP there, and so it's like those two. Those two guys showing new IPs. That's awesome.
Naughty Dog's ridiculous, man.
I'm very happy both of them will be showing something there. It's not 100% of Naughty Dog showing a new IP there, but I'm leaning on they probably are, considering how big that team is.
Naughty Dog is retarded, man.
There's so many. They are like, put it this way, if it even looks like a little bit like what The Last of Us looks like, jizz.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying.
Like at this point, it's
come out with 4 games this generation, and on the freaking launch day they have a freaking new IP.
They're like surprised. And like, so when you own the system, you will know this game will exist. So it's like, so they're really killing it this generation.
Oh, for sure. So, they destroyed this generation.
There was this trademark that was released by Sony, and it was like, I think it was 1886. It was like the year 1886. And there's a rumor that the game, clearly, 1800 game, that Naughty Dog is working on this 1800. But I heard it was Guerrilla Games, because Guerrilla Games is apparently working on a new IP, and that I believe it was either Naughty Dog or Sony Santa Monica were assisting. It was Naughty Dog, I think, that was assisting Guerrilla Games with this project. So I believe it's either Guerrilla Games or Naughty Dog's. But now that I think about it, I think it's actually Guerrilla Games' IP called 1886. But at the same time, Naughty Dog is like rumored to be working on a new IP. So they could show Uncharted 4, they could show a new IP. Either way, it's gonna look at it this way.
You know what I haven't heard from in a while? Insomniac.
Yeah, Insomniac is making that like nasty ass Fuse game for like EA that like I think released like really soon. I think that game would release like a couple of days ago.
Oh, really?
It's either going to release like next week or this week, or like already released a couple of days ago.
I guess that's why I haven't heard of them, because I don't really care about it.
It was bad.
Yeah.
All you need to know is like I've heard like
that's so weird.
Horrendous thing. This is like a 180 turnaround. It's like this complete turnaround from
Ratchet. You're from Ratchet.
So you saw from Insomniac goes from like the Ratchet series, which was good, and the Resistance series was like to like all of a sudden like we're making Fuse. It's like oh no, Insomniac.
What are you doing?
To start doing. So I don't really know what's going on with that.
Well, hopefully we see some more Second Son stuff too.
Oh. Ooh, I'm very much looking. If there's any established IP that's at Sony right now that they've already shown that I'm looking forward to, it's Second Son. even more than Killzone, more than any other IP that they've already announced.
Yeah, I forgot Killzone.
I'm just so interested in the Second Son.
Second Son looks retardedly awesome.
I didn't even beat the first or second. Craig's beat the first and second. I haven't played or beat either of them. I've played the first one to a great extent, but never beat it. But I'm just absolutely excited for Second Son. So I'm 100% looking forward to that footage. Not really a prediction because it's clearly going to be there. So it's not really a prediction, but we're looking forward to it.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
So Destiny footage is clearly going to be shown at. We didn't really get to talk great lengths of that game, but that's a game where it's like
we talked about that game a lot.
We talked about that game like here and there, but Destiny itself.
I'm more thinking of Star. We talked about Star Citizen a lot.
Oh, we talked about Star Citizen. That is a great IP. But it's like I'm looking forward to both, but the Destiny, it's like we don't got enough time to talk about everything that this game is about. Mm-hmm. This game deserves its own fucking segment. All right, I will do my own segment about this game.
I'll be its own episode.
What it could be. But that's going to be at Sony's press conference, which is the craziest thing. I'm more excited for Destiny than I might be any other game as of right now. Destiny, and then under Destiny is going to be Infamous, and then under Infamous might be some other games. But those two games have piqued my interest just tenfold right now.
It's all about Final Fantasy 15, baby.
Oh yeah, that too. You just completely forgot. I'm getting. All you guys need to know right now is I'm getting hype as fuck right now. Yeah. Us knowing that 24 plus hours time that we're going to be like shitting our brains with all these things. So we're gonna have to wait a little bit further for Nintendo's, but for Sony's, I'm putting a solid guess on some of those being there. Price, date, new IPs, all that jazz. So clearly some Vita games will be shown there. Some more Vita support will be talked about.
That's why I'm more curious about the Vita support than I am for the actual games coming out on it.
Yes, so because I want to see just how their own games will work with it and how their own games will support with it.
For sure.
So I'm 100% looking forward to that. And those are my predictions for it.
As far as Nintendo goes,
for Nintendo with the Nintendo Direct, it's like up in the air because they had so many Nintendo Directs that it's like. We know of Super Smash Brothers is going to be shown on the 11th, and that's something that that has been being tweeted and that Nintendo has said. So the footage will be shown. As for how much of it, we don't really know. And the thing I don't like about Nintendo Direct versus it being an E3 thing is you're just kind of getting these little snippets of news things. I mean, is this going to be like a grand Nintendo Direct? Is it going to be longer than most? So I don't really know.
Nintendo Direct Deluxe version.
Pretty much. That's what I want, like a Super Nintendo. They have to say Super because I always say no, the Japanese selves. Where's that Kashi? Yeah, man. But
I think it's all his fault.
I feel so. Like, I don't know, you're the reason why I hate the Japanese. But they need to call it just Super Deluxe, and just make it really long, and I'll give a fuck.
Right.
The only thing I'm really looking forward to Nintendo, truthfully, is showing Super Smash Brothers. Tell me what Retro's doing, because I feel they're doing a Metroid Prime game.
Or just a Metroid game in general.
Or a Metroid game, because it could be 3DS, it could be Wii U or 3DS.
Mm-hmm.
Show some more Wii U stuff, because after Xbox One's launch, Xbox One's announcement, Wii U's look pretty good right now, I guess. So really, I'm so interested to see what they say about the Wii U, because it's like, look, the 3DS is already down the bag. I'm already getting one. All right, because Animal Crossing is releasing. It's already today.
Animal Crossing was announced for it, so I'm getting it.
Pretty much. Once you announce Animal Crossing for it, you set in stone. I will own it, and that is it.
I'd like to see some Pikmin 3, perhaps.
Yes, because now that I see that, I'm like, now I care. Because now I'm going to be owning the system. I care now. So I want to see Pikmin. I want to see that new IP. The one by Monolith, X.
Oh, yeah.
That game's driving me nuts. I want to see that fucking game, all right? I want to care about it.
That was in one of the openings. That was one of the openings that we had.
It was. I remember. It was, but I'm definitely up there, very, very excited for that game.
Oh, for sure.
I want to know when's it coming out because that will probably be aligned with when I'll own the system. So, I'm predicting clearly they're gonna have to show it there. I don't see them not. So I see that game shown there, Pikmin shown there, whatever Retro's doing, whether it's new IP, old IP, Smash Brothers. These are all 100% solid. They're not even predictions. Some of them are confirmed, and the rest of them are predictions.
Unless, like we said, maybe the Nintendo Direct is gonna be this short little
I hope it's not. I feel that.
In which case, we'll be like, ugh.
I feel that Nintendo knows they need to make their presence, and I feel that they know they need to show it. So I wish we had a little bit more time for more prediction stuff because I'm predicting a whole lot of shit. Fallout having to be shown. Like I'm predicting Fallout 4 will be shown. There's so many other games I'm interested to see through. There's a lot. Like Fallout 4, I feel is like going to happen. They're going to show that damn thing there. Considering this new generation and Bethesda clearly hasn't been working on anything for several years, so we already know what the hell's going to be Fallout 4. So it's like, I'm interested in that. Exactly. I'm interested in Evil Within. We're still talking about Bethesda, so it's like I want to see Shinji Mikami's new game. Right. I want to see how different it is from PlayStation 3 to PlayStation 4. I want to see whatever this Titanfall game is that's exclusive to Microsoft system. It's also coming on PC, so I somewhat care about it because I could own it on PC. I want to see if what's his face from that did Star Citizen. I want to see if he does something special for E3, like shows off more content. So I'm interested if he's even there anyway. I'm interested about a lot of things coming out from this E3. This E3 is like it's going to be the most exciting E3. Like by default, it will be the most exciting E3 that will happen until like the next console cycle. Yeah. So this E3, if there's any other E3 that's that it E3, it's this one. This one's that it E3 that you must see. Gotta skip work, skip it, call out of school, call out sick. Gotta fucking call off a date, make that shit happen. That whole wasn't good enough.
I got Monday to Thursday ready to go, bro.
This guy, I'm going off with literally. I work from like 6 to 10. All right. Mm-hmm. Now I work on 6 to 10 on Tuesday. And most of the time I work 6 to 10. Sometimes I would work 6 to 10 because it used to be my old school day. And because I forgot to change it in the system, I always work till 3 o'clock. Nice. I'm not working. I let them know sun came up, leaving at my scheduled time. And I need the hours, but it doesn't matter. E3 is far important. After E3 is done, I go back on hours. I don't give a fuck.
Right.
These days,
there'll be time for work later.
Exactly. These days are for foxhole days. These days are for writing up shit, reading crap. I'm going to be on that ass. We're probably going to be 12, 13 hours plus on this damn computer, reading all the tidbits of game shit. It's going to be awesome.
It will be. Most definitely. It'll be much foxhole to come.
Very much so. We're going to be excited, and that's how we go start that and that tomorrow, and then the day after, and then the day after that. So there's a lot of cool shit going on. I'm very excited for E3. I can't even, I seriously cannot emphasize how excited I am.
It will be awesome indeed.
Pretty much now. And that Kosh wasn't even here.
Right, the bastard.
But anything you want to say to close this one out, Craig?
No, you pretty much hit the nail on the head. Like, there's really not going to be another E3 like this for a very long time, as you said. Like, this is the last couple E3s have been kind of slow. Nothing too impressive. Like, you had like that one or two like really cool thing. True. But
because last couple of E3s, like every company and their damn mama wanted to like sneak out next gen. Exactly. Like how Ubisoft was like, I don't know, guys. We kind of got this watchdogs.
Exactly. That's all we were talking about last E3. Was like, that was the next gen.
Yes. No, I'm sorry. Especially when like they showed Star Wars 1313.
Yeah. I mean, everyone like talking about these new engines they're making.
Everybody, put it this way. Every company was desperately trying to like sneak out and advertise their next gen stuff because it's like they kept almost like they were trying to like lobby for Sony and Microsoft. It's like, come on, alright, come on, damn it.
Exactly.
By the way, and they're like, and Microsoft's like, hey, you can't show that, you can't do that. And they're like, we're not saying it. This is on a PC build. And they're like, by the way, we're just gonna show you this Watch Dogs game running on PC. I don't know, whatever. Gonna be running on future systems. I didn't confirm any other systems coming on. That's what it was like. Everyone wanted to flex their next gen muscle last year. It's true. It was hilarious. It's Square's like, I don't know, I got this new engine lying around. Here you go, but to be used on other systems, who knows, whatever. They knew what they were doing, all right?
But yeah, with that, now that the next gen muscle is here, this is where everyone gets to show what they can do with it.
Everyone's flexing.
Exactly. So it's gonna be awesome. We're not gonna get engines. We're not gonna get tech demos. We're gonna get actual games that we will actually be playing this next generation, and it's going to blow minds.
Very much so. So look out for that. And there's gonna be so much talk about games. And with Microsoft's thing already kind of being confirmed that they won't change anything, you can expect that they won't say anything about it. So it's just gonna be about games.
It's all gonna be about Connect.
Pretty much. So it's gonna be all about games the next couple of games.
I swear to God, if they mention TV at all. this thing.
The only thing that they should
any
be
sort of
mentioning
TV
about,
support, I'm gonna be.
Look at it this way: the only thing that they should be talking about TV is what game TV you will be playing it on. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
The only thing they need to refer to TV is how you'll play it on your TV. But that's it. I don't want to hear anything else regarding any television programs, nothing like that.
Exactly.
So
I don't want to hear any sort of partnerships you're having with NBC.
They've already said that they wouldn't talk about it, but it's like they better not try to sneak some shit in there.
It's Microsoft. I want to put it past them.
Oh man!
Like, I know we said that we wouldn't say this, but let me just get this out of the way.
Yeah. So with everything being said, there we've got Microsoft, Sony, Nintendo, EA, going to be every big major third-party company. We're very clearly excited about what Square is going to do. So there's just so much riding E3 for every single. No company is essentially safe there. All right, Sony could come back and announce some crazy shit for their system in terms of the use support thing. Could they see a business venture? They could hop on it. Microsoft could come out and show some great games. Nintendo could come out of left field and announce some amazing IPs. I feel it's no one's really safe this E3. This E3 is making or break it for every last one of these companies.
Which is what makes it's so fantastic.
It makes it epic. It really makes it epic. As much as everybody's riding the PlayStation wave and everybody's jumping on a bandwagon like, hey, this thing could cost an arm and a leg. I mean, for all we know, like,
we haven't gotten a price.
We don't got a price. For all we know, that they might come with the same DRM policy.
It'd be like 6 feet tall.
Pretty much.
Like,
It's like a server. Pretty much. It's gonna be like some mini server in your room.
It's gonna be like that
breathing.
It's gonna be like that early '90s craziness.
Some fat ass thing. It's gonna hit you out of your room, and it's like how Sony was saying, you're gonna need to get a second job. Like, not only gonna need to get a second job,
you need to buy a power generator.
You have to buy a power generator. You'll need to keep that second job. Power the PlayStation 4. So I mean, there's a lot of things like that could happen. I mean, Sony's writing off of PlayStation 3 being a bad launch. They're writing off of having a really high price point. They're writing off a lot of stuff. And if you consider that the GDDR 8 gig RAM might be like their Blu-ray, they might say, hey, look, we went balls deep with that unified RAM and it might cost you. Like, that could be that generation, something like that happens. Mm-hmm. Microsoft could come out and say, hey, look, our system's either more money, our system's subscription-based. They could come out and do a lot of crazy things. Nintendo needs this just as much because it's like, though they're the only clearly system that's selling, because none of the two systems are out in the market yet, they're selling really poorly.
Yeah.
So it's like this recent sales spike because of the X1's announcement. A lot of that sales spike might have been people who were on the fence and said, okay, now that we know what your system is, we're now making a choice. Mm-hmm. Now, with that small sales spike, that you still have to take consideration, the system prior before that was selling really, really low. So for me and for some other people, for me, I'm going to purchase the system now. But for other people, might still be on the fence. This might be the E3 that says, do I want to get a Nintendo system or do I want to go next gen with one of these other two? Because publishers, regardless of Microsoft or Sony, put it this way, publishers are still showing stuff. You have stuff by Ubisoft, EA, Take-Two. Everybody's still storing their stuff. So if you think about it, it doesn't really necessarily need to be one or the other two. It could just be any publisher making any high-end next-gen game that might make someone say, maybe I don't want to spend all my money on a Wii U. Maybe I want to go next-gen. Mm-hmm. And so I feel everybody has something to lose this E3. Going off of the history of Sony having crazy launch at PS3. Yep. Microsoft going off of the craziness that I don't even need to tell you how bad that shit is to tell you that they have something to lose. And Nintendo off of their sales and based off of how they've kind of not shown a lot of their Wii U games or announced a lot of Wii U games. So this is a coming out for everyone, even Nintendo. It is a coming out because as far as the Wii has been released, most gamers don't feel like it's been released as a game. So they don't feel like they've got that Nintendo reason to own it. They don't got those strong Nintendo Mario Karts and Mario Party. They don't got that lineup yet to say we're getting it. So this is a breakthrough release for every single platform. Everybody's coming out of the gate swinging, and this is a fucking free-for-all, and everybody's coming out swinging, and it's going to be a great day.
Oh man, I saw that idea from Mario Party, but it should be satisfying. I'll leave it alone for now.
It's like, there's so many things Oh man.
Like a new way to play Mario Party with a Wii U type software.
You see, it's kind of Frank's already flexing ideas. You see some interesting things.
I'm telling you, they can make some really cool stuff. Nintendo's just got to step up the game. Like we all know that they can.
Very much so. So this is definitely going to be a great E3. Just to close this out, this has been episode 6 of the Foxhole Cast, and
we'll be back very shortly because we're gonna want to talk about everything that happens at E3.
Very much so. This is like episode 6, and episode 7 will just be continuing of episode 6.
Basically,
I mean, it'll just just be basically it's just going to say what we revealed, whether we're correct or not on it, whether we're spot on, not spot on, what we're shocked of.
All the crazy surprises and
yeah,
such.
And now that you know what we already think about it, we could genuinely say, hey, look, I wasn't thinking that. I was surprised about that. So it'll be genuine responses by us. So this has been like a really, really awesome cast, and we're pushing like a lot on this one. This has been a great episode.
Yeah.
Just talking about what we feel about it, talking about games in general. But E3 is going to be great, and
hope you enjoy it. 'Cause we know we will.
And Kirk was pointing at the mic when he said that. But
yeah, so I'm actually pointing at you. You.
Yeah.
You.
And this has been episode 6 of Into the Foxhole. I'm Edwin Nova.
It's Craig Robinson.
Yay.
See you later, guys.
E3.